When German immigrants came to America, they brought with them their food, which greatly influenced a lot of American cuisine, like so many other countries did as well. Because of that, a lot of American food is very similar to German food. However, there are also many foods that are called the exact same thing between the two countries, but mean something completely different.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie.
And I'm Aubrey.
And we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Just recently, we were grabbing a pizza for dinner here in Germany when we overheard another American complain that she had ordered a margarita pizza but did not receive a margarita pizza. She and the restaurant owner went back and forth for a while over what a margarita pizza is until she finally gave up and just accepted the pizza that she had been given. I sat back and smiled as I knew exactly what was happening because we had the same thing happen to us when we first moved to Germany and ordered a margarita pizza for the first time, thinking it would be what we knew of as a margarita pizza in the US, and it was totally different. In fact, there have been many items we have seen on German menus labeled as something that we know from the US, but when we ordered them in Germany, something completely different came out from the kitchen. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today in our video. What in tarnation? Did my order get lost in translation?
Our experiences are definitely specific to where we are originally from, a state in the southern US called Oklahoma, and where we live now in the southwestern German state of Rhineland-Pfalz. Both of these places have their own unique subcultures that may not be representative of the two countries as a whole. These shocks can also go both ways, and we know of Germans who have had the reverse shocking experience with the same foods when they traveled to the US. Therefore, let us know your experiences with these things in the comments below and where you are from.
So let's revisit the story that we open with. The lady ordered a margarita pizza, but what she got was not what a margarita pizza is in the US. In fact, when she started describing what she actually got to the restaurant employee, she told him that she received a simple cheese pizza. And much to her surprise, she wasn't wrong, but at the same time, she was.
That is because in many restaurants in Germany, we have found margarita pizzas are simply tomato sauce and cheese, whereas what Americans would expect is surprisingly a lot closer to a genuine Italian-style margarita pizza with tomato sauce, large slices of mozzarella cheese, basil leaves, and maybe some fresh-cut tomatoes. In the US, when a pizza has just tomato sauce and cheese, that is simply called just a cheese pizza, and explains why this lady was calling it that and thought she ordered something with more toppings on it. Of course, this is going to vary some depending on the restaurant, but we checked all the local pizza places in our area and confirmed this is how they serve a margarita pizza.
Beyond just margarita pizzas, you also have to be careful in Germany ordering the American staple, pepperoni pizza. It is not the pepperoni pizzas like Americans are used to don't exist at all in Germany. They do, they just aren't typically called pepperoni pizzas, and they aren't really that common. If you are wanting what an American expects with red sausage slices all over the pizza, then you should look for a pepperoni salami pizza or a pepperoni Wurst pizza to be the closest, but a salami pizza is going to be the most common that is somewhat similar to a pepperoni pizza. However, if you see a pizza labeled just simply as pepperoni pizza on a German menu, don't get excited thinking you found the exception, because what you most likely have found is actually a pizza that will come with peppers all over the pizza and no meat at all.
In fact, keep this in mind anytime you see pepperoni in a German restaurant, because this will affect more than just pizzas. If you go to get a döner or a sandwich and they ask if you want pepperoni, they're not gonna add meat to your meal, but actually pepper slices.
Come springtime in Germany, you will start to feel a certain buzz in the air and electricity, and suddenly all the Germans that sometimes had the reputation for being cold and grumbly will walk around with smiles on their faces and a little pep in their step as they rush around to restaurants and grocery stores to get their fill of asparagus. Well, not what Americans would call asparagus. If an American goes to a German restaurant in May, sees Spargel on the menu, but they don't know what it is and they translate it, the translation would just come out to asparagus. This probably wouldn't feel so special to them, as they most likely were forced to eat these by their mother growing up, or because it is a super common side dish in the US. However, as soon as it comes out and the American sees what it is they have ordered, they would be shocked.
That is because of a silly little nuance with the words used to describe these foods. To an American, simply asparagus is going to refer to the long, skinny green variety, but to a German, the translation for asparagus will refer to long, thick, white vegetables. In both countries, the opposite has to be specifically referred to as the exception to ensure that everybody is on the same page as to what is being talked about. This means in Germany, what is asparagus in the US is green asparagus in Germany, and what is simply asparagus in Germany would be referred to as white asparagus in the US. If you're American and grew up on green asparagus and don't like it, I would still highly encourage you to give white asparagus a go if you get the chance. White asparagus soup or just white asparagus with a hollandaise sauce in the spring is hard to beat.
Real quick, I want to say thanks so much for watching this video. It is not sponsored by anybody, so you guys watching it and interacting with it is the only thing that supports this video. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button so others can find our videos and hopefully enjoy them as well. You can also find a link to our Patreon in the description if you want to support us that way. But now, let's get right back to the video.
One thing that we have actually talked about before in another video, but fits very well in this topic as well, is iced coffee. We know we are not the only Americans who have been surprised when on a hot day we order what we saw in the menu as iced cafe and think we will get what we call iced coffee, literally just coffee served cold and poured over ice.
However, in Germany, what you actually will get is what we would refer to in the US as a float. In the US, a float traditionally refers to a dessert with vanilla ice cream scoops in a glass with some sort of drink poured over it, also traditionally root beer. In Germany, when you order an iced cafe, you will get ice cream scoops in a glass that has some coffee poured over it. Honestly, you can't be too upset when you think you're going to get coffee with just ice cubes, but instead you end up with a delicious float, but it can still be a little shocking.
If you really want what an American refers to as iced coffee though, they can honestly be hard to come by in Germany. You will definitely find some places that offer them, or you can describe what you want and they will make them. Some of the comments from our German viewers the last time we talked about this also described that you can simply ask for Kaffee mit Eiswürfel or geeiste Kaffee, and you might get what you're asking for, but because this isn't a popular drink in Germany, you may just want to go ahead and order the iced cafe and live with the happy accident.
If you've eaten breakfast in the US and in Germany, you will have immediately noticed huge differences in the actual food Americans and Germans consider breakfast foods. For example, a Southern specialty that I grew up on is biscuits and chocolate gravy. If you never thought you would hear the words chocolate, gravy, and breakfast in the same sentence and want more of an explanation on this, let us know in the comments. But another thing that is a classic American staple across the US for breakfast are pancakes. When an American thinks of pancakes, they think of thick, fluffy stacks of sweet cakes topped with pads of butter and smothered in syrup.
That can lead to a very interesting surprise when Americans travel to Germany and find Pfannkuchen, literally pancakes, on the menu, and they ask to order them for breakfast. Because first off, pancakes are not a breakfast item in Germany and they will not be topped with syrup. Pancakes in Germany are traditionally going to be served at lunch and will be served with jams, applesauce, or other types of spreads rather than syrup. In our experience, German pancakes are almost perfectly in between an American pancake and a French crepe, because they are thinner than an American pancake, almost like a crepe, but they are eggier than a crepe, more like an American pancake. They are also normally significantly bigger in diameter than American pancakes, despite them being thinner. However, you might encounter an even greater confusion if you travel to some parts of Germany like Berlin, where a Pfannkuchen actually refers to a jelly-filled donut.
There are, of course, a lot of varying ways to eat pancakes in both countries, and every family is going to have their own recipe. But a couple of interesting differences in how American and German Pfannkuchen are made include the use of specifically carbonated water in German pancake recipes, and American pancakes will often include baking powder to get the rise they are famous for. We are, of course, completely biased because we grew up with American pancakes, so we love thick, light, and fluffy pancakes, and one thing I definitely miss in Germany is syrup. You definitely can find it in grocery stores, but it is not as abundant as in the US because of the lack of recipes or meals like this one that actually uses syrup. But what about you? If you had had both, acknowledging all of our biases, which one do you prefer?
So when you're traveling to Germany or the US and see an item on the menu that you think you recognize, it would probably be best to go ahead and just double check the description to see if you are really getting what you think you ordered. Or just enjoy the culture shock and opportunity to learn the differences between cultures and enjoy what they give you anyways. And a really important note, if you ever see the word pickle in Germany, it is not an American pickle. Let us know in the comments if you have ever had an experience thinking something looked familiar in a different country, but was something completely different, or what other surprising things you know have the same name, but different meanings in other countries, no matter where you're from.
Super random and not related to this video really, but Aubrey and I do have a disagreement and maybe you can help solve it. Aubrey thinks that McDonald's is better than Burger King, and I think it is definitely the other way around. So to see who made it this far into the video, which do you think is better, Mickey D's or the BK Lounge? Once again, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you in our next video.
Cheers!
But it is not as abundant and as, but it is
So close.
so
Or what other surprising things you know have a... Can I start over?
yeah. We get it?
You never know, but you always do it. What? Oh my gosh. Sarah.
The chair got stuck by